Antonio closes it out on a 10-0 run. Not a good job by the Nets closing out, because here's the thing, Bob. Come playoff time, these are the kind of games you're going to be playing, those games where you have to make the right decisions, especially in those final seconds.
You're right. You're not always going to have the right counterpunch. They were able to do that, the Spurs, late in the game. We saw these teams kind of trading punches throughout the game. But in overtime, it was a different story for the Nets.
Yeah.
Your basic point is that you can't always rely on everybody playing that well in overtime.
It obviously wasn't a good ending for the Nets in the fourth quarter, but look at the way that they started overtime. They knocked down their first 3 shots and had an 8-point lead. So they basically ended the game right in the beginning of overtime. But I think one thing that Steve Nash will look at was what happened defensively at the end of the fourth quarter, and then that final possession where they would have been better off if Kyrie actually had just dribbled out the shot clock, because there would have been 1.8 seconds to go when San Antonio had the ball.
All right, let's take you through what happened there late in the fourth quarter and then in overtime. And we'll start with James Harden right here in a 104-98 game.
I mean, he's got this old school game. I mean, the guy is just so good in the paint because you don't know if he's going to shoot or if he's going to pass. But here come the Spurs back with Patty Mills knocking down the 3. Such a good three-point shooter. And then again, Kyrie Irving pulling up and missing. Here come the Spurs out on the break. Nets not doing a good job getting back. Here's DeMar DeRozan. Look at that, challenging DeAndre Jordan at the basket. Makes it a 2-point game. And then here's Kyrie. All right, so if you're going to make this play, and as Sarah pointed out, he is one of the best finishers in the game, you have to score right there. Then DeJounte Murray probably should have been a foul, honestly, before the shot was ever taken on DeAndre Jordan. Good job by him knocking down that shot at the buzzer.
That's fortuitous that last play was a mess, but Murray was able to make that shot. Now Kyrie stripes one here to get the Nets
And this
going.
was just to open up overtime. Kyrie knocks down the first shot, then James Harden again with that floater, essentially impossible to stop. And then Kyrie backing his man down, kicks it out to Bruce Brown. How good did Bruce Brown play? If he's going to knock down
23 points. And then here we go again. Corner ball, Kyrie.
Yeah, you don't expect Bruce Brown to be the one driving and kicking, but that's what he does right there. Kyrie knocks it down, and then here's James Harden. He's such a great shooter, so the ball's going to rattle around a little bit, and then fall in. 5 points for James Harden in overtime. What a game
much more of a scoring option. And by the way, aggressive in every facet of the game. He ends up with the 30 points, 14 rebounds, 15 assists. First net with a triple-double in San Antonio. Again, they break that long regular season losing streak, and 5th win all-time in the regular season against the Spurs. So tough place to win, whether it was the Alamo Dome years ago or whether it's AT&T Center now.
And I think, when you're talking about very good teams with championship aspirations, these are the kind of games that you win, even though the Spurs are a good team. But think about it. The Nets still don't have Kevin Durant, and they're winning games like this. Disappointing what happened at the end of the fourth quarter. But to come out like that in overtime and hit him with a knockout punch, 8 straight points to open up overtime, really important. Now you go into Houston, because after that game, you're off for a while. Now the 2 guys are going to the All-Star game. But James Harden had a big scoring night tonight. Wait until Wednesday. I don't think he's going to be Mr. Distributor. I think he's going to be looking to score a lot.
Yeah, that game in Houston, his former team, we're going to have that game for you here on Yes a couple nights from now. Meantime, we're at about the halfway part of this season. Nets with a 23-13 record. And Durant, Harden, and Irving, to your point, have only played 7 games together. So it just makes you wonder what can happen here when Durant is finally healthy and ready to go.
It's really buying you time with Kevin Durant, because if he comes back and plays the first game after the break, which will be March 11th, that would mean he's been off an extra month right here to rest up. But at some point, you do want to see this group together and play for a long stretch and see how good they can be. If Kevin Durant is healthy, and so is James Harden and Kyrie Irving, the Nets will be very difficult to knock out in the Eastern Conference just because they're so good offensively. They have a defensive lapse in the fourth quarter in the final 2 minutes of the game, and they still find a way to overcome it. And Kevin Durant's not even with the team.
Right. All right, we got a lot more to talk about here on the postgame. When we come back, we're going to hear from Steve Nash about with one of the big 3 tonight to get Kyrie Irving back.
Yeah, if you think about the way last week ended on a bit of a dud, because the news came down about Kevin Durant's going to be out until at least after the All-Star break. Kyrie Irving not available against Dallas. They didn't really play well. You knew that was going to happen. They were in store for one of those games where they just didn't have it. But good to get Kyrie Irving back tonight.
A lot has been made of the fact that 17 years the Nets have gone without a regular season win in San Antonio. Take a look at this, Frank. I'm going to dazzle you with some facts.
All right, let's go.
The Yes Network hadn't even launched yet when they finally got that win.
You were out of work in 2002. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was. Okay. What was I? Anyway, what was I doing? Walk On by U2.
Yeah, good
Number
song.
one song. A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe. Won the Oscar, and then gas was $1.44. We all miss those days.
They filmed some of that at Manhattan College, A Beautiful Mind.
Did they
As
really?
well as Princeton University, John Nash, A Beautiful Mind.
That is
really
a dazzling fact that you just added a different layer to it.
I think everything won for Best Director, Best Picture, but Russell Crowe did not win Best Actor.
Yeah, that's a tough one for
Even though
Russell.
the movie was all about him. I don't know what happened.
Hey, I do want to ask you this. None of the Nets, obviously, were around when they got that last win in San Antonio in the regular season. Does this mean something to them, though, this current group?
Well, absolutely. And I think, number one, you're talking about an organization that, except for really last year, has been the gold standard in the NBA. That's one part of it. You're looking to get back on a winning streak. And remember, too, the head coach of the team, Steve Nash, one of the most disappointing playoff losses he ever experienced was against the San Antonio Spurs. That's when he got hip-checked into the scorer's table. There were a bunch of suspensions because Amari Stoudemire left the bench. The Phoenix Suns were convinced that that was that year for them to go win a championship. So Steve Nash, every time he goes to San Antonio, he thinks about that.
But before we move on, are you limited to just 2002 in Oscar trivia?
That was the one movie that you gave. You said Beautiful Mind.
Yeah, coming up on the next show, 2004 Oscar
There
trivia
we go.
with Frank. Let's get the very latest from Michael Grady now with his courtside report. And Grady, let's start with the players that are back and then not available. And it will be good to see Kyrie back in uniform tonight.
That's right, Bob. Yeah, he's going to be back in the lineup after missing that game just the other night against the Dallas Mavericks. Kevin Durant continues to be out with that hamstring. He'll be reevaluated after the All-Star break. Couple more names added to the injury report for the Brooklyn Nets. Jeff Green is not going to play in this game. He's still bothered by that right shoulder contusion. Of course, he did play in the last game, but missed the previous couple of games because of that right shoulder injury, and so he is going to be out of the lineup tonight. Also, Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot, right knee soreness, is going to miss his second game of the season. He is not going to play in tonight's game. You were just talking about with Frank about how long it's been since the Nets have won a regular season game in San Antonio. Well, when we hear the letters TLC back in 2002, we thought of T-Boz left eye in Chile. I was in college, probably messaging with people on AOL Messenger while wearing Fat Farm and Sean John. It has been that long. And so you think about this stretch of dominance for the San Antonio Spurs. It's something I asked about Steve Nash a little bit earlier about the standard of excellence that we've seen over the years from Greg Popovich and the Spurs.
Yeah, sustained longevity, culture, Pop is one of the all-time greats in any sport. So for him to have that command of a program and continually get the best out of his group is remarkable. You could go on and on about all the ways that Pop and all the people involved and the players have done an incredible job of sustaining excellence.
Bob, I was talking to Bruce Brown a little bit earlier and asking him about the Spurs and their excellence over the years, and he said he just realized I've never beaten the Spurs anywhere in his career. So he has a little extra motivation. In fact, again, the last time the Nets won a regular season game in San Antonio, Bruce Brown, Bob, was 5 years old. Wow.
We know that Nets GM Sean Marks has a big connection to San Antonio. You had a chance to catch up with him. We're going to hear from some of that coming up in just a bit. What sort of things did you touch on with him?
We talked about just how wild this first half of the NBA season has been. You think about it, all the excitement going in, seeing Kyrie and Kevin on the court at the same time, the depth on the roster, Kyrie stepping away for a little bit, leads to the trade for James Harden, then Kevin Durant in and out of the lineup due to contact tracing, out again now due to a hamstring injury, and through all these things, all these ups and downs, saying goodbye to some familiar faces, the Nets have stayed winning. They have stayed consistent out there. They've had their ups and downs, but they're right where they want to be in the Eastern Conference with an opportunity once again if Philadelphia loses. And they win tonight, speaking of the Nets, they can move into first place in the East. So we talked about that. We talked about the improvements that we've seen from Steve Nash from a head coaching standpoint over the course of this first half of the season, and also players holding each other accountable, which is very instrumental to success on the basketball court. If you can have open, honest conversations, even if you feel you may hurt someone's feelings, that type of accountability has really set up the Nets well since that Detroit Pistons loss. Really good conversation with Sean Marks. Looking forward to airing the first half today and the second half coming up on Wednesday.
Yep, we'll get to that in a bit. You know what else did not exist in 2002? Appreciate You with Michael Grady. It's your new show. You're busy listening to TLC and texting friends. I know that. But now it exists, and you have your second episode coming out tomorrow. Tell us who you've got coming up.
Yeah, excited about that tomorrow. Bomani Jones is going to join me on the show. Appreciate You.